Hello, you can call me Chef Josh, and today I'm going to show you how to prepare a Jane Doe calzone. What you want to do is get your pepperoni. Mama Gianna made some fresh cuts, and then you're going to add 100 pounds of straight up cheese and 5 metric tons of fluffy, bouncy dough, cause damn. Welcome to your Jane Doe build guide, as many of us have questions about what her best teams are. Are they anomaly disorder based teams, or is it something else? What engines or discs should we be using? All questions that we'll answer very soon. But to plant the seed now, Jane Doe's best team might not be a dot or disorder team. Ooh, this is gonna get juicy. Let's dive in. Now, before we begin, let me know down in the comments what your plans are for pulling and or building Jane Doe. We're gonna be taking one person from 3 of our Jane Doe videos, and we're going to be gifting them a $100 Jane Doe pull session. This is gonna be happening over on Twitch, so you need to also subscribe here and also join our Twitches live. We host a bunch of cool events, marathon streams, collaborations, and of course, again, all of this is free for $100, so make sure you join in. Now, back to the video. So let's start with Jane Doe's kit breakdown. Now, I'm no scientist, but I would like to learn the physics about how she's able to walk, because hips aren't meant to sway like that to and fro. Anyways, don't worry, as Jane Doe's movements are anything but slow. See, one of Jane Doe's best attributes is her ability to always stay moving and attacking. So let's start with her engine. The main gimmick, the passion state. Jane Doe's main goal is to build up this passion state by performing these 3 actions of perfect dodging, defense assist, and or by using her ultimate. She's able to gain big percentages of her passion stream bar, this allowing her to gain attack and perform the biggest DPS output of her entire kit, the Sow Cow jump. Say it with me, kids, Sow Cow. Thanks to Jess Kells in the comments for correcting me in my previous video. So let's go through the rest of Jane Doe's kit in the context of building up the passion state. And of course, I've calculated the passion bar accumulation rate, as it's not inherently written out. Jane Doe's basics are a string of 6 attacks, all dealing physical damage. Funny enough, I've even tested that we only need 10 auto attacks. Hits 1 with full 6 string and 4 hits out of the second hit passion state. This actually demonstrates how easy it is to get back into the state so that you can get back to huge damage and buff multipliers. Jane's special is called the aerial sweep, and when charged to EX, you're able to add an additional tail swipe. This ability is able to generate around 40% of passion and is an ability to weave in when you're out of dodge counts and or when you need to iframe an attack. We'll mention this later, but a string of 6 auto attacks with an EX special will get you to the passion stream state, which is kind of nuts how fast you can hop into it. But that's just her playstyle. More on that and how her combos fit in later. Now, I could go super in depth about Jane Doe's assists and dashes, but let's just give you the TLDR. Performing defensive assists and follow-up dodge attacks will greatly increase passion, and when in the passion state and performing said actions, you get to enhance those versions, which you should be utilizing, as the dash dodge can restore a bit of passion when in the fiery state. And finally, Jane's ult is the final curtain, with her chain attack, the Flowers of Sin, also tied to the skill. Both will allow Jane to enter into max passion state and thus reset one of her biggest attacks, as mentioned before, the Sow Cow jump. We'll talk about more how to integrate her deadly spinning swirly blender of an attack in the combo breakdown for maximizing assaults. Just remember that this feeling of absolute speed as we move into the build breakdown. And at the end, I'm going to tell you something about the Sow Cow jump that I missed from Jane Doe playtesting, and this changes my entire perception about the character. Stay tuned. We can also talk about Jane Doe's core skill, but TLDR, you get more anomaly proficiency, and this will lead into the Gnaw, where Jane Doe gnaws deep into her this allows her to enhance the crit opportunity of flinch, extending the duration and allowing it to gain 25% crit chance and 50% crit damage. The AP of Jane Doe actually further enhancing her crit rate. And when it comes to skill priority, that's the amazing part. What's crazy is that none of her skills technically matter, because the scaling of anomaly mastery actually comes from the level. So prioritizing the character level, push to 60 max core, it's all you need to do. Whoa. Were you actually gonna believe this guy right here? Alright, if other creators are saying this, I'ma crash out. Anomaly, yes, is over 70% of her damage, but what about the other 20 to 30%? You can still prove on that damage, but more importantly, the days. People are forgetting how much days Jane Doe can actually accumulate throughout her attacks, and because Assault increases days buildup, you gotta pay attention to these skills. Now for a physical anomaly character such as Jane, there are so many options with so much nuance. If you want the full breakdown on what each scenario calls for, and what weapons and why certain weapons are graded as is, because it's not always about the optimum output, please refer to the video over here and in the description, because there will be someone screaming in the comments thinking that I always have my numbers wrong. Hey Reddit Warrior, I have playtested these quite a bit. So let's start with the W engines. Mousie's signature is called the Sharpened Stinger with a base of 48 and an AP of 36. At tops, it gets a whopping 90 AP, which is the highest any anomaly weapon can provide, while also adding the passive Indulge in the Hunt, which upon dash attacking can gain up to 3 stacks of 12% physical damage bonus for 10 seconds. And the stacks are dependent, meaning that they can be reset, re-triggering. If you have this weapon, always try to keep this buff going with the dash attack. Max stacks will also increase anomaly buildup rate for individual by 40% scaled, and this can get real freaky as 40% increases almost 2 times the amount of buildup. And with more procs of Assault, the attribute anomaly, well, that just feeds straight into the core effect as mentioned earlier. Other good options are the Electro Lip Gloss and even Weeping Gemini, but you'll need dot attribute anomaly of Shock, Burned, and or Corruption to sustain the Electro Lip Gloss passive, which will then make it worth. But if not, it just becomes regular lip gloss, and you don't need regular lip gloss, so please be mindful of it. Very cutesy, very demure. Lastly, the Fusion Compiler is still good even with Pen as its substat. The raw dog and base stat and passive are enough to get you by and is a solid option if you can't get the signature. As a Rainforest Gourmet, it surprised me with an almost 100% equivalent to Jane Doe's signature at R5. So if you have that as an option, go for it. As for drive discs, they are much more simple. Go for the 4-piece Fang Metal with 2 Freedom Blues for anomaly proficiency. There are arguments with the Hormone Punk being a solid option, but if you're strapped for anomaly proficiency in your squad, the Freedom Blues over the attack buff will always triumph. So if it's more of a needs case, you'll want the AP to feed into your core passive. With Jane Doe's tricky nature, you know she's always got something up them big sleeves, and that is her core passive, the Gnaw. Now, I did mention it earlier, but this is where your small attention spans snap back to reality. I know you're dozing off. This is important. With each point of anomaly proficiency, we're getting 2 things. First, with the Passion State, we are getting an AP to attack conversion buff. With your enemies tagged with flinch, they are susceptible to a crit assault hit. Do not try to just brute force crit with the substats. It's not going to go well for you. So with your anomaly proficiency stat, you'll get 0.11% per AP, meaning with 420 AP, hey. At max potential, you're getting a 46% plus 25, which is actually good enough to basically confirm your assault crit. And there are other ways we can increase her AP, so don't worry. She will crit with the flinch, and you'll have enough to give her a max passion attack buff. If you did enjoy the graphics shown, they're actually all made in-house by yours truly, so the information is 100% credible and backed by your boy, the #1 Jane Doe supporter. Go check out our community Discord for all your infographics and to hang out with a community that is as crazy as easy as you guys are. And with that, we've come to the combo section, which, I'll be honest, I had some intricate plans for this segment, but with how fast Jane Doe functions, it's more appropriate to put her in situations and show her lines instead. With Jane Doe, she has so many options to evade foes, alongside the speed at which she's able to build up to her Sao Cow jump. That is just not necessary to have an optimized path. Although if you're going up against one enemy, let's say Nineveh, there will most likely be a line or attack pattern you'll want to follow to optimize your damage. But that's not the point of this video. You're here to learn about her use cases, so let's start with her out of passion state. As mentioned before, a quick 6 auto basic chain into EX will get you into passion. You can from there interweave your basic and dash the follow-up attack, as it is buffed and will do very big damage for you. And don't forget that with each passion state you enter, you can get 1 use of the Sao Cow, so I suggest holding onto it until you've achieved a few things. Firstly, make sure that you're ready to throw down your combo in the stun state, because with the big bakery comes great responsibility to maximize her damage. Assault adds to your days buildup, and Jane Doe has a great days multiplier already, so just be around 70 to 80% days when you're about to set up the big combos and buffs. As for the buffs, standing from your previous characters, Seth or Lucy, even Sokaku, make sure they are still relevant, meaning the windows can be varied from 8 to just around 20 seconds. Then also note that your potential weapon, like the Sharpened Stinger, has a buff timer of 10 seconds. Before your Sao Cow, make sure to have a dash attack procced under your belt, and with that, also note your attribute anomaly, as you'll be wanting to proc an assault during the Sao Cow, or after having procced a flinch to be able to crit with an assault. All these will culminate into big physical attribute anomaly damage for you. Now I understand that there are other things to consider, especially when you're running a Jane Doe, let's say Grace and Seth Lowell team. Like, oh damn, Seth actually be pulling the mothers of ZZ out here with his electric attribute res down and his anomaly proficiency buffs. Women know what they want, I guess. But Jane Doe doesn't mind, as once you hit them with shock, you'll most likely want to either have been in day state or already ready to shift into the gear with either Jane Doe's E skill or Seth charge basic, the lightning strike electrified. Then, with all previous knowledge or setup in mind, it's time to rev up the buffs, rev up the damage, and then crit like you've never crit before. Jane Doe to me has so much value with the flexible playstyle, and very much like a Kafka, who doesn't need to set off more dots, but benefits the team overall damage by increasing her own. It allows for fun ideas to sprout. The team setups are shown here, with their main partners in crime being Grace and Seth being the ideal disorder support partners. Yet, this is where the seeds I planted before pay off. Remember how I told you that Grace and Seth might not be your best team? Well, look no further than your classic stun setup teams with Chingy and Seth, or even Kaleda and Seth. These two options, which I've now tested, feel extremely powerful, as I'm able to more consistently dish out the assault damage with stun damage multipliers instead of having to set up via shock anomaly with Grace. The damage coming from the shock bonus, yes, can be comparable, and with the stun can out damage classic stun teams, but with how many stuns you can just get more consistently with the stun team, I understand why other leading creators say this seems more comfortable. In my opinion, there might be some other characters down the road that have off-field or preserving dot anomalies that make it more feasible to run anomalies straight over the classic stun teams. But to be more realistic to you, the viewer, I can just suggest stun teams over the anomaly or disorder. Those are a bit harder to execute past rotation 1. And then let's get to our more budget options. First, let's introduce the Ambi Nicole core, the good old reliable. Then you have other options like the physical or potential monophysical with Nekomato support and Lucy Caesar. Let's be real, a double Kaleda Lucy sounds amazing too. These teams again revolve around more conventional stun to burst window teams, but that's generally because we don't have a lot of great options to play synergistically with Jane Doe's disorder teams yet. I'm not saying Grace disorder team is not good, I'm just saying that why invest more if you already have Ching-Yi or Ambi left over from your GN squad. And finally, this is where we get to her mindscapes and investment value. Now you would think Jane Doe gains a lot from her mindscape investment as well as potentially her signature, right? But this is finally where I get to tell you guys, this is exactly where I got Jane Doe all wrong. Initially, the interpretation of Jane Doe's mindscape was that she was able to perform 2 Sao Cow jumps per her passion state, which technically this is true. However, they did not mean that each entry into the passion gives you 2 stacks. Think of it more like you can have 2 charges, but they don't give you the 2 charges, only 1. So you'll have to find another way to get into the passion state in order to gain a secondary charge, which in my opinion was a complete miss, since you're always going to be Sao Cow jumping each passion state rotation for max damage. There's no use in story 1 for later, as the buff duration of your other units will have ran out. This is something big to keep in mind. The potential increase from M0 to M1 is about as low as 5% to just over 10% depending on investment. Then you get to her biggest jump, the increased 50% crit damage of non-flinch as well as the 15% defense ignore. You get a whopping 25 to 50% damage increase. Then M3 and M5 are again still solid to increase damage of skills and days buildup, leading to faster day stun rotations. Then your M4 is the assault and disorder buff, which can prove vital for the relevance of justifying Grace over the ease of burst stun teams. And M6 is absolutely disgusting. Think Eula's secondary splash burst, but Jane performing an additional attack based on her anomaly proficiency. But in all seriousness, M2 is the biggest breakpoint, yet with all the info we've gathered, her budget options were a lot more competitive than I initially thought. Early investment like M1 was drowned out by my own misinterpretation, so I was thinking about going M1 with Sig, but at this point I might as well just go with no weapon and M2 or M3. So go forth with this knowledge and save your wallets for Caesar and Bernice, cause Lord knows we're gonna need to return our down payments on our houses for them. But that'll about wrap up the Jane Doe holistic guide. If you have any more particular questions, make sure to jump by our Twitch stream where we are mostly live, but probably now. But still make sure to go follow over there if we're not, so you get notifications when we do. And of course, still comment below down on this video, as well as check out our other previous Jane Doe videos so that you're entered into our $100 poll session giveaway when she comes out. And with this, we'll see you in the next video. My name is Josh, and click on this next one. I think YouTube thinks you'll like it.